So, what if a novel wasn't just a story? What if it was actually a practical blueprint for escaping the daily grind? Well, the source for today's explainer claims to be exactly that. It's not just fiction, it's a guide for building a whole new reality disguised as a story.
The novel is called Produce or Perish, and it offers a pretty radical philosophy for anyone out there who feels stuck, trapped, or just plain exhausted by the modern economy. Its core argument is provocative. It says, stop trying to work harder within the current system. Instead, you need to build a new one from the ground up.
This quote, man, it just gets right to the heart of a feeling a lot of us know, right? It's that feeling of being constantly busy, always consuming, but not actually building anything that feels meaningful. You're running on a hamster wheel, but what are you really creating? What are you leaving behind? This is the central problem this story sets out to solve.
And the story makes the struggle really personal through its main character, Jamal. We meet him working the overnight shift at a massive fulfillment center. You know, the kind of place the author calls where dreams go to die on a conveyor belt.
So Jamal is just trapped in this monotonous, soul-crushing cycle. He's trading his most precious resources, his time and his energy, for a paycheck that basically vanishes before it even hits his account. He isn't living, he's just surviving. And the novel argues this is no accident. It's a trap designed to keep people too exhausted to ever build something of their own. This piece of wisdom comes from Jamal's mentor, his uncle Rashid, and it really redefines what oppression looks like in the modern age. The chains aren't physical anymore. They're economic and mental. This constant state of being tired, broke, and distracted that stops us from ever reaching our true potential.
Okay, so if that's the trap, what's the way out? Well, the novel argues that it all starts with a fundamental shift in how you see yourself and the world. It's about moving from being a passive consumer to an active producer.
And this comparison right here is the absolute core of the book's philosophy. Think about it. The consumer mindset is passive. It's about surviving, waiting for things, and asking what the world can give you. But the producer mindset, that's active. It's about thriving by asking, what can I create? What value can I add? What problems can I solve for the people around me?
And what's great is that the novel doesn't just leave this as some abstract idea. It gets practical, and it gets practical fast. The characters don't just adopt a new mindset, they build a whole new structure around it. They form a community group called the Futuwwa Collective to put these ideas into action. Now, the name they choose is deeply significant. Futuwwa connects their modern economic struggle to this rich historical tradition of service and mutual support. It frames what they're doing as more than just a business venture. It's a moral and spiritual mission. Okay, but here's the most critical question, right? It's all well and good to have a new mindset, but how do you actually fund a business when you have no capital, no credit, and no connections to traditional investors?
The solution they come up with is just beautifully simple. It's cooperative economics. Instead of going to banks, they become their own bank. By pooling small, consistent contributions from everyone, they create a shared fund for interest-free startup loans. And here's the crucial shift. They replace the need for a credit score with the power of community trust. And the novel makes it crystal clear that the collective's real power isn't even the money in the fund. That's just a tool. Their greatest asset is the people in the room, the combined skill, knowledge, and trust of the members themselves. And this is exactly what that asset looks like in practice. This group isn't just a collection of friends, it's a synergistic team. You've got a designer for branding, a tailor for quality, a guy with street smarts for sales, a cook to create the product, and a tutor who's deeply connected to the community. They have everything they need internally. They've built their own self-sufficient microeconomy. So for our guy Jamal, the idea of becoming a producer is still just that, an idea, until a crisis forces his hand. The story shows how that moment, when things become absolutely unbearable, is often the very thing that unlocks our true potential. And just look at how fast this all unfolds. Within 24 hours, Jamal goes from having a dead-end job to having no job at all, a family medical crisis, and an urgent, desperate need to make money. His abstract dream of starting a business suddenly becomes an immediate necessity. And this is the number that triggers it all. Just $200 a month. For many of us, that's a cable bill or a few dinners out. But for Jamal's family, it's the difference between life and death. The novel uses this small, relatable number to show just how fragile economic survival really is for so many people. This quote, which the author actually credits as the inspiration for the novel,
frames this climax perfectly. This isn't just Jamal's story anymore. It's a universal moment of choice that many of us face. When the pressure is on, do you crumble? Or do you find a new way forward and break through?
And right here, the author's message shifts directly from the characters to you, the person watching. The argument is that the resources we need, our skills, our courage, our community, are very often already within our reach. The biggest hurdle isn't a lack of resources, but a lack of decision. The most important step is simply deciding to act.
So the explainer ends by turning the blueprint back on us. This isn't a get-rich-quick scheme. It's a framework for building a life of purpose. And the final challenge is to look at our own lives, our own communities, and ask those two fundamental questions. What can you build, and who can you build it with?